Hey there, I'm Michelle Caswell, and this is the Purely His podcast. And today I wanted to talk to you about the blind leading the blind. This can be taken in so many different ways, but the topic of this podcast is definitely inspired by some recent events. But, you know, when we have a story, when we've gone through things, it is so important that we get the healing that we need. And then we take that story, we put it in the hands of God and hey, God, however you want to use my story, which is totally what I do. I firmly believe that my story is my authority, as is yours. However, if you don't have healing in certain areas, you don't have authority in those areas. Just because you've been through something doesn't mean you have authority in that situation or in that category if you have not been healed. So for instance, when I was brand new, coming out of my addiction and I had, 3 weeks clean and sober, or I had 2 months clean and sober, I had no authority in the area of addiction recovery. And so, yes, I could get along with the other girls that I was in rehab with. And I could be like, yeah, I know what you feel like because I feel like that right now. Or yeah, I used to do that in my past too. But I had no authority to be able to coach them or mentor them or disciple them and be like, oh, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to addiction recovery because I've got 2 months clean or I've got 3 months clean. No, I am literally one of their peers at the same level as them, going through the same thing as them. So I had to wait to really be able to give people advice that would actually stick and actually work. I had to wait a while until I was proven. I had to have some time under my belt. I had to have success under my belt before anyone was going to come to me and be like, oh my gosh, you're an authority on this issue of addiction recovery. And that goes for any type of thing that you have in your past, whether it's abuse of any type or addictions or divorce recovery or grief of, somebody that was really close to you that passed away or whatever the situation is. Maybe it's marriage advice. Why would you go to somebody for marriage advice who's been married for a year? How about go to someone who's been married for over 10 years, over 20 years, 30 years, somebody who has actually gone through the ups and downs of marriage and have been successful. The other thing to really look for when you're looking for someone to get advice from, you're looking for someone who has a life that you would want. You're looking for someone who has the qualities that you would aspire to have, not just somebody who's maybe read it in a book or somebody who's currently going through it or someone whose life does not match up with any type of life you would want. And so I think it's really important that as we're looking for someone to counsel us, to coach us, to mentor us, to disciple us, we're looking for people whose lives match up with their words, whose lives match up with the Bible, with biblical standards, whose lives are in a place that's like, man, if I could trade lives with that person, I would want to, because they seem like they're doing pretty well in their marriage or in their finances or with their children or, with their job. They're actually in a place that I can look up to this person. So, I was coaching somebody the other day and we were FaceTiming and I was talking her through some situations. She's going through some court stuff and she was so anxious when I got on the phone with her. And she started telling me how there was this friend of hers who is giving her all of this advice and it's really got her, anxious now. And so I'm like, wait a second, isn't this girl going through the exact same thing you're going through? Yeah, she is. I'm like, then why would you take advice from her? You got to take advice from somebody who's on the other side, because that person is going to read into your situation their own emotions. They're going through their own stuff. So they're going to be like, oh, I know this is exactly like what I'm going through. And this is how I feel. So let me put all my feelings onto your situation. But this person is right in the thick of it. So I encouraged her. I said, when we have a friend going through the exact same thing as us, it's cool if we talk to them like, oh, wow, you're feeling the same thing. Yeah, I'm feeling the same thing. But don't take advice from them, not on that subject, because they're not through it yet. They're not proving yet. They don't know how this story is going to end. They don't know if they're going to overcome this situation or not. They don't know how it's actually going to play out in court or how it's going to play out in their life. So I think it's important that we do have peers that understand what we're going through. But it's really important when we're trying to get through something, when we're trying to get unstuck from something, that we're talking to someone who's on the other side and who is proven in that area that what they did actually worked. There are certain situations where someone can give you advice where they're on the other side of it and they're like, listen, don't do what I did. That's also good advice. But you want to talk to someone who's on the other side and who has proven themselves to be successful in that area before you go trying to get advice from them. And that goes for like who we're listening to on social media, what we're listening to like on TV shows or podcasts or whatever. A lot of times we're getting advice from people who don't know what the heck they're talking about. They have not walked it out in their life. And for us to take advice just because it sounds good, they could be copying it out of a book. They could be copying it off of somebody else's social media or whatever, but it's not actually proven out in their lives. So it's just really important, consider the source. Consider where you're getting your advice from. Consider whose lives you are emulating. Consider who you are following, because, I think this is from psychology or something. I don't know. I've heard this from a lot of people, but you are most like the 5 people you choose to hang out with. And that is so true. People rub off on you. Even podcasts that you listen to, they rub off on you. Books that you listen to or you read, it rubs off on you, the knowledge that they have. But if it's not coming from a person who actually has walked it out, there's not a lot of power behind it. It kind of becomes empty words, and it could also lead you astray. So just be careful of that stuff. I think it's really important, even for me, like my job is life coaching, mentoring, speaking, writing, doing all that stuff. I still have mentors in my life. If I'm going through something, best believe I am reaching out to a woman in my life that is wise, beyond my years, has a lot more experience than I do. I'm going to reach out to her and I'm going to, talk to her about my issues and I'm going to get her advice. I'm not going to go to somebody who's at the same level as me. I'm not going to go to somebody that I'm mentoring to be like, hey, what do you think about this situation? I really need help with this, when that person is not proven. That is unwise. And so, even in the Bible, it talks about that, bad company corrupts good character. So that goes with people that are mentoring you. That goes with people that you're getting advice from, even like little clicks or whatever on social media. You have to just be careful who you're allowing to speak into your life, whose advice you're actually taking. Like if you go onto TikTok, you'll see that there are all these trends that happen. And this, all these different people are literally saying the same thing. They're just copying it from someone else. So instead of just watching these trends and listening to these people who are saying these things that everybody else is saying, how about listen to people who have actually walked out what they are saying? Somebody who has an authentic lifestyle and a proven history of walking things out before you get advice from them. Now, I always say in Purely His, like if you wanted to lead a group and you want to, just gather some friends in your living room and you want to go through Purely His and you're not like, really leadership material, or you're not like, wow, I'm not like fully walking this out yet, then don't present yourself as a leader. Just say, hey, I'm getting a few ladies together in my living room. I wanted to go through this book with all of you. What do you think about that? And just not putting yourself in a place of leadership. It's like, no, we're all going to do this together. We're all going to, get unstuck together. That's totally fine. And think of it as what the Bible talks about. First, take the log out of your own eye so that you can help others take the sliver out of their eye. It's just so important that if you are currently living a life where you have a huge log in your eye, where you're not doing well, where you are stuck, don't be trying to help somebody with their sliver. Focus on your own log. Focus on your own problems. Get the healing that you need. Get unstuck. Get past that. And then start helping other people with the sliver in their eye. I've noticed that a lot of people will start to help others, with the sliver, help others get unstuck from different things. And it's just a distraction from your own problems. It's so much more important to go, you know what, I'm going to take a break from giving people advice. I'm going to take a break from trying to help other people. And I'm going to focus on myself for a little while. I'm going to go to counseling. I'm going to go to a life coach. I'm going to go to this in-depth Bible study. I'm going to go through Purely His myself. I'm going to work on my own self. I'm going to get past some of these things. And once I do, I know God's going to bring people in my life that I'm going to be able to speak into. But to do it prematurely so that you can feel better about yourself or so you can distract yourself from your own problems, those aren't the right reasons to do it. And I've been guilty of those things myself. So I'm speaking from personal experience. I loved being able to know the answers to people's problems. I loved being able to give good advice and things like that. I loved being able to do all that stuff. However, there were times that I just needed to take a step back and really work on my own self. Thank God I did. I went through rehab for 1.5 years. I went to a Christian ranch for 4 years. I worked in my church for a couple of years, and then I ended up starting Purely His. But this whole time, I have either been going to counseling. I have definitely had quite a few mentors in my life that really spoke in my life and really taught me. I've read tons of books. I've read the Bible many, 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 many times. I listen to sermons every single day, sometimes more than one, sometimes 3 sermons a day. I have really worked on myself, forgiving people, repenting from my sin, surrendering everything to the Lord, confessing my sins when I struggle, and I've done my best to live for the Lord in every way that I possibly can. And I've never said like, oh, I've arrived. I'm just doing awesome in every area. I know that I still have issues that I'm working through, but they're current issues. They're not necessarily past issues that I'm still working on. And so because I have put in that work and I have a testimony that goes along with it. Like I'm 19 and a half years clean and sober, and I'm 19 and a half years of serving the Lord and not falling. And I was able to, be with my husband, like when we were just dating for 9 months without having sex until our, wedding night. And I have a proven track record that, hey, not only did I heal, but I'm actually living a life that matches up with the healing that I've received. And so that's what qualifies me. And that's not me bragging on myself like, oh, I'm so awesome. No, that's me saying, listen, I put in the work and God did the rest. Like God has healed me from a very, at a very deep level. And he's healed me of mental illness. He's healed me of addictions. He's healed me of the shame and the guilt and, just living completely entangled in sin and leading others astray. Like he's healed me of all of those different things. And so I have a track record now that makes me trustworthy. And that's why people come to me for advice. And that's why I'm able to give wise advice, because I went before them. I've walked the path already, and I have continued to walk the path. And so therefore that gives me credibility. And again, not trying to brag on myself, just saying there is a difference between those who have read it in a book and those who have lived it. And so I just really want to encourage you to get the healing that you need so that you can help others get the healing that they need. And if you need healing right now and you're like, but there's not a Purely His group in my area, then start one in your living room. Just get together with a few people and do it together. I have a leader's guide. I have a workbook. There's videos that go with it. And there's even a training on the website that's like a online training. If you're like, I feel like I need more training to be able to lead this group or to be a part of this group, that's all available. And of course, you can reach out to me on any of the social medias or through the website. The phone number's on there, the email address is on there, and I would love to help you, because my whole goal is to help you go all in with Jesus and get unstuck from anything in the way of that. And I also offer life coaching. So if you wanted just a personal time with me, whether it's through FaceTime or Zoom, even over the phone or in person, if you're local, I can do all of that. But I want to pass on what has been passed down to me. I want to be able to, take the knowledge that I have, take the stories that I have, and be able to help you, make your story your authority also. and just, take a break from helping other people if you're not doing really well. That's totally fine. Just recently, I mean, I took a 6-week social media break because I was going through a few different things all at once. And I was like, you know what? I need to pull back here for a second. And I was still doing some one-on-ones, but I wasn't doing a ton because I knew that I needed to take a step back and just get a little healing, get a little more peace, and then I was ready to rock again. So, it's just important that we have a healthy perspective on our own healing and that we don't try to bring healing to others before we get the healing that we ourselves need. And so I want to be here for you to go through any healing that you need, whether I can, point you in another direction. You might need drug rehab. You might need to go to a mental hospital. You might need a counselor to go to. You might need shelter because you're homeless. You might need, whatever it is that you need. I'm not a one-stop shop. So Purely His is not a one-stop shop. We're not like Fred Meyers. We try to stay in our own lane. But if you need additional help that we don't offer, I would love to be able to give you a referral to someone who can help you. We also have quite a few groups getting ready to start in Oregon. I'd love to help you get into a group or help you start a group in your area because it is so powerful when you get a group of people together and you're actually healing together. It's, not only can you help to support each other and relate to each other, but you can also hold each other accountable. And it's so powerful. When you put the Lord in the center of a group of people trying to heal, it's amazing. So love to be able to help you however I can. But my main thing I wanted to share with you today is don't be helping other people get the slivers out of their eyes when you have a huge log in your own. Get the healing that you need and then go help other people. It's one of the best pieces of advice that I've received, and it's one that I want to pass along to you. And even as a leader, like I am, sometimes we need to stop and go, you know what? I need to put this on hold for a minute. I need to get some things, in check in my own life so that I can make sure that I am being a good example, so that I can make sure that I am going to lead people towards the Lord and not lead them astray because I'm being led astray or whatever. So it's just important to do those personal checks on ourselves. We know when we're not doing good, and we know when we're distracting ourselves to try to avoid whatever it is that we're struggling with, and I'll probably go into more detail in other podcasts, like what was I struggling with for those 6 weeks that I had to take a break. I know I mentioned a few things in my last podcast, but there's other things as well. And sometimes, life just hits you all of a sudden, all at once, 3 big things or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, whoa, let me just put the brakes on right now and let me, draw closer to the Lord and allow Him to comfort me and let me search my own heart and be like, what is it that I need to change? Because what I'm doing is not working right. And I need a little help here. And so, yeah, I feel so much better taking a little break and really focusing on those things makes me feel so much more refreshed and okay, I can do this again. I can be out there and helping as many people as God will bring in my path. And it's such a joy. I love making disciples. I love mentoring people. I love using my story to bring healing to other people and to encourage them. And it makes it to where it wasn't all in vain. The things I went through, it wasn't all for nothing. It was for such a time as this to be able to use my story, use the healing, and then help others with it. So I want them to experience what I experienced. I want them to experience real joy and real peace and get rid of the embarrassment, get rid of the shame, get rid of the guilt, and, be able to live a life that they can be proud of, to be able to finish strong in this life. That's so important to me. We do not know when Jesus is coming back, but I always live like it's going to be soon. So I want to make sure that I'm right with the Lord, and I want to make sure that I am finishing strong in this life and doing what He's called me to do. So what He's called me to do today was make this podcast. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I hope that you will subscribe and reach out personally. If you want to reach out to me, reach out to me. I would love to talk to you and hear your story and see if there's any way that I can help you to overcome whatever it is you're struggling with and help you get on with life and live a life that is successful to you. We all have a different idea of what success is. And I would like to help you get there. So anyways, God bless you and have a super awesome day.